Um, I'm starting our recording here, and again, I want to say to everybody as folks are coming in, we are very thankful that you're here. I am seeing that Chandler Bing is here with us, and again, as you go to interact today, we have the chat and we have our hand raised, and I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to introduce you to Jessica James and Shelly Robinson, who are both learning technology integrators in Albemarle County, and we are excited for them to get some learning this morning on virtual organization. Your future is clear and categorized. So ladies, we're really thankful for you and your time this morning, and I'm going to figure out how to stop the share and go ahead and take it away. And we are here to help you in any way that we can.
Okay. Jessica, do you want to talk about the gripes?
Sure. So good morning. We are going to get started with a gripe session. It is 8:02, 8:03, and I'm sure that you probably have some things that you have struggled with this year in terms of organization. So we're going to kind of hit three categories today: email, Google Drive, and your learning management system. So what has been your biggest frustration, your biggest gripe about keeping any one of those things organized? Can you all drop that over there in the chat, and we'll kind of call out some different things while Shelly kind of gets her screen ready to go. So what's been your biggest gripe about any of those keeping any of those things organized, either Google Drive, email, or your learning management system? Emails nonstop. So many people share so many things with you. Keeping track of emails. Too many documents. Yeah.
You're in the right place then.
Making Schoology usable, absolutely. Keeping those learning management systems streamlined is so important.
Just a heads up, Jessica and I both have infant and preschool sized coworkers that we're going to try and keep occupied throughout this session. And we do have a pre-recorded presentation for that reason, but we will be pausing along the way to answer questions, and we are fully present right now and throughout.
Google Drive, making a copy, junks everything up. Emails from 2014. Good heavens, this is the right session for you. Right session. Love it.
Okay, so should we get started with the presentation video?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Shelly, I'm going to go ahead and drop our presentation link into the chat. We definitely encourage you guys to follow along with the video, but we'll drop that in so that you all have that for a resource as well.
Okay. So as I said, we will be pausing along the way to answer questions, but of course there is the other protocol, ask questions as we go in the chat, but we will get other opportunities to answer questions in person as well. So enjoy. Hi, so welcome to Virtual Organization. Your future is clear and categorized. We have the bit.ly at the bottom of this screen, but we do recommend that you save that for later and you follow along with our screens for the presentation. So little introduction, I'm Shelly Robinson. My Bitmoji is to your right. This is my third year as a learning technology integrator for Albemarle County Public Schools. And prior to that, I taught middle school math in New Jersey for 10 years.
And hi, good morning. I am Jessica James, and this is my second year as a learning technology integrator for Albemarle County. And prior to this, I was a middle school science teacher for 12 years. So this morning, we just had a couple quick guidelines to get started. If you have questions, we definitely encourage you to drop them in the chat, and then we'll also be pausing periodically to answer them. But putting them in the chat first is definitely the best way to make sure that they get answered. And then the other thing is just to be understanding. We know that these are not normal circumstances. There's spouses, kids, pets, and the accidental unmute button. And we've all had something happen at some point. Shelly and I both have 2 young infant coworkers at home, so we totally get it.
So a little bit about the objective of this. So this presentation was inspired by the Home Edit. And if you're not familiar with the Home Edit, it's a professional organization company that kind of went viral. And they recently had launched a Netflix series. So they have a system that we felt really could apply to a virtual world. And even though they organize closets and homes, we thought in the virtual world, organization is also important. So their system could really apply to anything in your virtual world. So their system is Edit, Categorize, and Contain. And we will go through those 3 steps for 3 different platforms.
So the 3 platforms we're going to hit on today are Google Drive, making sure you get your documents and everything where they need to be, learning management systems like Schoology, Google Classroom, Canva, etc. And then the last one we're going to hit is your email. So we're going to streamline and clean up that inbox. We're going to get started this morning with Google Drive. We felt like this is the one that we know that's sort of universal. Everyone uses Google Drive, and it's a great place to start. So we're going to hit on the edit, get and edit what's there, delete what we don't need, categorize what's next, get those folders, and then contain, because everything and every file deserves a home. So edit, we've got to get your drive cleaned up and ready to go. So the first thing that you probably want to do is get that grid view going. And that's the little box that has the rectangles. And this is going to show a preview of each file without having to leave that window. Then you're going to delete what you don't need. Right click and click remove. And this could be a quick thing, kind of go with your gut here. Don't forget to think of, and then as you're going through these, think about those categories of the files that you're going to keep. And then don't forget to rename all those untitled files. I'm really guilty of this, and your satisfaction will be instantaneous. Categorizing, folders. You've got to get everything in a folder. All those loose things that you have down at the bottom that were sort of those random things need to go somewhere. So a suggestion would be, in terms of places to start, would be making 3 folders if you don't already have these: a 2019, a 2020, and an archive. This will give everything a place to go. And then if you've got sort of other specific categories, depending on what your roles are at your school, you may want to consider adding a folder for that too, if you find yourself kind of needing a larger catch-all. And then your next steps within that main folder, you're going to create subfolders. So within 2020, you probably want to have a folder of all the classes you're teaching, and maybe committees that you may be on, or newsletters that you get from your administrator. Think about what you saw during that edit process. And then remember, you can always rename or add folders as you go.
So a few tips we want to share that could kind of help with this process. And again, the year folders, it's just advice if you need a place to start and you don't know where to start. Those are so generic that anyone can find a place to put those things. But if you already have other categories in mind, that's fine too. But these tips can help with any sort of categorization. So if you want a folder to go to the top, Google Drive does not let you drag and drop things to a set location. You can put an underscore as the start of the name. And even though it would alphabetize anything that came after the underscore at least puts it at the top. Also, you can color code your folders in Google Drive, and a little home edit signatures. They always put things in rainbow order because it's beautiful to look at, but it also makes sense. It's an order in the colors that it's just ingrained in your head. And then also another thing, if you're a visual person, you can have emojis in your folder names. And this is also if you're helping students organize their drives, which is always a task that teachers are looking to do. You can teach them that as well. And there's a little trick on how to do that. And then hashtags. There is no official hashtag system in Google Drive, but you can actually just make one, because when you search for files, sometimes it's hard when you don't have like appropriate naming conventions. So if you put a hashtag at the end of like personal files, hashtag resource, hashtag lesson, that could be an easy way to find files that you're looking for, even before or after you've organized your drive. And finally, once you have everything categorized, your folders are ready to go, you contain everything. You've edited your items, you've made categories, and now let's put everything together. So put everything in a folder. And a little trick I will show you in my drive. So first, let me show you a quick, all right, here is a folder. And you saw I had some underscores and I had color coding. Here we go. So let me show you how to switch to grid view, because right now this list is a little overwhelming. So I'm going to switch to grid view, and it's a way to not have to go into each file during the edit process and the categorize process. So there might be a little bit of a mess here, but I'm just showing you some things that you could do. You could drop down this arrow, and you can just drag content into the folder that you want it to go into. You can also bulk move items, and you can also drop down further if you have subfolders, and you have bulk moving options, which if you click on the item and then hold shift, and then you can click on the next set of items or the last item, and it'll fill in everything in between. And I can move 3 files at once. So it's just an easy way to contain everything in so that the process isn't so overwhelming. It's loading. There we go. All right. One more trick. If you hold Shift Z while you click on a file and then hold Shift Z, it will let you add a file to a second folder. So sometimes your folders might, your files might cross between different folder categories. And this will let you put the same file in both places. You can open it in one location, edit it, and the file that's in the other location, it's the same thing. So it will still be edited in the other location as well. Just a little fun trick. Okay, so we talked about Google Drive, and we are taking a pause point and a very flattering angle of mine in that video to answer any questions that you might have.
Shelley, we had somebody ask if we could show the emoji in the name. And I know on the on a Windows computer, if you hit Windows and period, that'll open up the emoji keyboard. And I can do some research if you have a Mac.
Mm-hmm. Shift Z is very fabulous because so many times you're thinking, how do I do this? You know, which folder do I put it in? You don't have to make that decision. You can put it in both. Still organized. As long as it's in a folder, that is the goal here. Any other questions about Google Drive organizing?
All right, Shelley, let's move on to our next section.
Okay.
Oh, adding an asterisk before the folder name also moves it way to the top. That's how you label your current year folder. That's a great one too.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure you spar those folders. That's another really easy way to kind of keep those things ready to go. I always forget about that start button.
Yes. Okay. On to LMS. All right, so now we're going to go into learning management systems. This one's going to be a little less specific because I know everyone has different learning management systems. We have Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, and whatever else you may use. So, but we are going to follow the same edit, categorize, and contain system. Or yes. So edit. When your LMS is messy, that's when teachers, students, and parents just keep emailing you. I can't find this. I can't find that. How do I find this? So edit is really important here. You want to make sure that you are going through and eliminating anything in there that might not be relevant anymore. So maybe it's an assignment from, you know, the first marking period. You might want to delete it off of your LMS. It doesn't get deleted forever. It's just what your students and parents are seeing. You want to make sure that it's just clean and easy to navigate, especially in times like this. If your school is remote learning, you're relying on your LMS very heavily. So also, if you do use Google Classroom, I know you can't have folders, but you can have topics, and consider those to be your folders because you can organize your whole Google Classroom that way. So for edit, if you don't know where to start, just look through the posts, delete what's outdated or irrelevant, or move it to a resources folder or tag. That would be more in a categorized thing, but just have it in the back of your mind and create topics in Google Classroom. And then decide the best way to organize your content. Look through what you have. Would date be possible? Maybe a lot of teachers organize things like week of so-and-so, or maybe units are better, units and modules and learning portions, topics, learning topics, categories, those kinds of things might be better for you. But just while you're doing the edit process, it's really important to analyze what you're editing. And then of course, rename any post that might be confusing. So maybe a name makes sense to you, but think of who your audience is in an LMS. It's the students and the parents. So you want to make sure that you have things clear. And obviously, not obviously, but another thing you can think of is quizzes, tests, assignments. You can have those in the name of the item so that it's very clear on what this is. Oh, here, this is a quiz. This is an assignment. Finally, you categorize. So I talked about this before. I kind of crossed over between the edit and categorize in my explanation. So think of what topics you would want if this is Google Classroom, or think of what folders you would want. And again, you can have subfolders. You can't have subtopics, but you can figure out a way to make those topics, leverage those topics. So I said you can make your topic specific if you can't have subfolders. So your topics might be more specific in Google Classroom than you would for a folder in Schoology or Canvas. But these are just some examples you can see here. Yep, and then some tips. Just like I said in Drive, you can use emojis to name your folders or topics. Really great for students, especially the visual learners. And it just adds a little playfulness to your LMS. Also, the hashtag system could work in an LMS. Students probably will respond well to hashtags. And if you rearrange your content, think of the order. So I know Google Classroom, it's kind of set by date, but think if you can rearrange it. What do you want on the top? Do you want the newest stuff on the top? Do you want the newest stuff on the bottom? So think of it as a self-guiding system. And then finally, you contain everything you've built in the categorize portion. You would just then take all the items after the editing process, put them into the categories, and that's it. And then of course, always plan ahead for any future categories. And then anything you upload, make sure you just categorize it immediately. This whole thing is not to do a whole, it's a lot of work to start, but the whole purpose is to prevent that work from happening down the road. So that way you'll have a system in place and it'll just be seamless and easy to follow, and it's just set. And so the work that you put in will be worth it in the long run. All right, another pausing point. Any questions about organizing your LMS? When moving things around in Schoology, do links change and become unusable? I don't believe so. I think they would only, the only time I've seen, oh, in Drive, no. Unless you deleted it from your Drive, but if you deleted it from your Drive, I'd assume you wouldn't need it in your LMS. The only time I've ever seen links break in Schoology is when teachers were linking to different pages in different courses, if that makes sense. Teachers were using Bitmoji classrooms to guide their LMS, and maybe they had, one situation was the teacher had it linked into a sandbox course instead of their actual course. So that's the only time you would want to be careful of the links. Reattach. Oh, be careful. Unpublishing assignments will delete the assignments in Schoology, so be careful with that. And also, of course, just make sure anything you share from Drive in your LMS is shareable and viewable. Anything else? Okay, let's move on to email, which seems to be a really hot topic. So let's get started with that.
So let's talk a little bit about email. We're going to go through the same 3 categories of edit, categorize, and contain. This is definitely an area that is easy to get out of control fast. So the tagline that you want to think about with email is delete it, deal with it, and then delete it or contain it or defer it. So you want to start by deleting or archiving your emails. The probably 2 main email systems that most educators work with are either Outlook or Gmail. So you want to archive previous years and outdated things. Another thing that a lot of districts do is they have a cap on the amount of emails or the size of emails that your email box can have. So if you do, then you want to delete the emails with the large attachments. The next thing you want to think about is unsubscribing from those pesky newsletters that you don't read. So advertisements, things that maybe you don't even remember subscribing to, or somehow they got a hold of your email, go through and just unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. Categorize it. So what is stressing you out or what's causing clutter? You can create filters or rules to automatically send emails to folders. Just make sure that you keep an eye on those folders. I know in Outlook, they'll turn bold, and just make sure that you're kind of watching for those things. You can set rules for things like shared with me or LMS notifications as well, and look for categories or trends. So that way you can kind of know what you need to contain. The next thing you want to do is consider what you want to keep. So if you have things that you know you don't want to delete, that you want to hang on to, create folders and categories or labels on Outlook for things that you'd like to keep. You want to think about maybe newsletters, professional development, username and account information. Then you can also use the flag system or star system to stay on top of emails that you need to reply to. So if you've got that kind of defer that you're not ready to reply yet, or you need to think about it before you send that email, use those systems so that it's easy for you to keep track of what needs to get replied to. And then you want to also think about maybe making a category rule for groups of people that you email really frequently as well.
I also want to jump in and add that everything you see underlined through this presentation is linked, so that when you do refer to this presentation later, you can click on all the links and it shows you how to do that. All right, so that's it for virtual organization. Sorry we went through this quickly. Time is limited, but we wanted to make sure we got the point across, and we are here if you need anything, if you have any questions, and we're ready to answer questions through the chat. But also here are our email addresses if you have questions later on, and here's the bit.ly again for this presentation. Okay, so more questions.
I'm also going to drop in the presentation link and also a feedback form. We would love your feedback as well. I'm also going to link this video in on that first opening slide of our presentation as well. So a couple people had asked for the narrated version as well. And so I'll definitely drop that in, but we have a few minutes. If anybody has any questions or extra tips, if there's anything that you're like, I wish I would have known this. And, you know, I wish that, and I'd like to share it out. We definitely would love to hear any extra things too. I feel like sharing is caring. One thing I learned about Outlook the other day is if you drag the email down to your calendar, it will automatically open up an event with everything in that email. And then you can type in like what the calendar event is. So that's a new one that I learned the other day.
Shout out to John Heffernan for saying hi, a former learning technology integrator from Albemarle County Public Schools. All right, thank you so much.
Oh, and don't forget, Google's changing
yes.
your trash policies, their trash folders policies soon. So keep an eye on that, because I believe that they're deleting things after 30 days now. So just be aware that when you're removing stuff, that it's not an unlimited amount of time that you can access it back. Yes, and be sure to check us out. We have a Twitter handle for all of the learning technology integrators for Albemarle County Public Schools, and that's at ACPS Learn Tech. So we also have that Twitter as well.
Jessica, can you repeat the calendar trick? Someone wanted to ask.
Sure. So if you, on the desktop version of Outlook, if you grab the email and drag it down towards the calendar icon, it will automatically open up an event with all of the email information underneath of it. So if I'm working with a teacher and we've been kind of going back and forth about a specific topic that we wanted to cover, then I'll create an event with kind of all of that in there. So we have the notes and kind of that refresher, so that when I go to my calendar and open it up, I have that reminder of like, oh, we were going to talk about this, this, and this.
Someone else suggested to download Google Drive Sync. Seen teachers. Oh, the 40 tabs. Yes. Google Chrome tabs having 40 tabs. Yes, which is difficult if you are you like to restart your computer often, because once you restart it, those tabs disappear. I believe they have extensions that save a set of tabs. Is it called One Tab? I could be wrong, but
I think that's right.
Okay, yes, but they do have Chrome extensions, which is a whole nother world of organization, but absolutely, I'm guilty of that as well, keeping my tabs open as a to-do list. open the sidebar with a calendar in Gmail will also auto load. So it looks like the dragging the email to a calendar event could happen across platforms. Highly effective in Schoology, create organization in a group under resources and then add it to my courses once I fully have. Absolutely. The resources and the groups are definitely great workarounds to keep things in one place without it being student facing. Absolutely. 30-day delete in Google Drive is only for the trash. Yes. Do not worry about the rest of your files. They're safe. Yes, one tab extension. Thank you, John. Tab Cloud is another one. It looks like they have a few. One tab and tabs backup. So.
And if you create a bookmark folder on Chrome, if you right click on that folder, you can click open all, like open in tabs. And so if you've got kind of those set tabs that you want opened up each time, or if you've got like a set tabs that you're only open up on like your virtual learning days, then you can just create like a folder with bookmarks and then right click on it and open it up.
And Control-Shift-T would restore your tabs if you do lose them. Close all tabs at once, Control-Shift-T to open them at the next login. Okay. Canvas is
Thank you guys
too,
again.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, Shelley.
Nope, we're good.
Thank you guys again so much. I'm going to drop the presentation link and our feedback form back in the chat because I know things got rolling pretty quickly, but we really appreciate you all and hope you all have a great VSTE.
Thank you, everyone.
Shelley and Jessica, again, thank you for kicking off VSTE with us this morning and for this presentation. We're really thankful. To my co-host Meredith, thank you for being here and waking up with me this morning.
Thank you, Josh.
And engage in our learning and our lives this morning as we try and put those two things together and then continue that on through Sunday. For those of you that are able to hang on, again, we're really thankful, and we around the interwebs. I am going to go ahead and start or stop the recording here, and